Hi everyone, thanks so much for tuning into this session. Today we'll be discussing some of our favorite tips on time management, but first we'd really like to thank our sponsors, American Express and Laureate International Universities, for really making this session possible. My name is Whitney Turrentine and I'm the program coordinator here at Youth Action Net, and this is Jessie. Jessie, what do you do here?
Hi everybody, I'm Jessie Ellisberg. I'm Program and Operations Manager for Youth Action Net. I handle our Laureate Global Fellowship program, our programs in Africa, and generally all things related to budgets and financial management. So Whitney and I both have a lot of different tasks and activities on our plate when it comes to Youth Action Net projects. We definitely appreciate how important time management is for being good at project management overall. So we thought it would be fun to talk a little bit about some of our favorite tips and tricks for how to manage time effectively. So today we're going to share a bit about the difference between important and urgent, how to prioritize your to-do list, a great online tool we love called Trello, and finally how to manage your email so it doesn't manage you. So let's start with this whole idea of important versus urgent. I saw one of our Youth Action Net trainers introduce this matrix during a fellowship training, and I really love the concept. So urgent tasks are those that need to be dealt with immediately, while important tasks are those that contribute to long-term goals and missions. The one problem that I think a lot of people have is that they tend to let the urgent tasks grab their attention because they're time sensitive. And this means that sometimes what's important can actually get ignored. This is what we call the tyranny of the urgent, and we really want to try to avoid this in our project management. This matrix happens to be called the Eisenhower box, actually, because it was developed by the former U.S. President, Dwight Eisenhower, who said that what is important is seldom urgent, and what is urgent is seldom important. So let's start by looking at the lower left corner of the matrix. These are the things that are not important, and they're not urgent either. This is probably a pretty obvious one, but this is the things like time wasters and trivial tasks, and these need to go. Delete them out of your to-do list. If we move to the upper left corner, we find tasks that are urgent, but they're not important. It's really easy to focus on these tasks because they're time sensitive, but before you start doing something that seems urgent, you might want to stop, ask yourself, is this important, and can somebody else do it? So in other words, delegate. Now if you go to the upper right corner, we find what's urgent and important. These are the tasks that do matter and they're time sensitive, so just do them. And finally, in the lower right corner, we have tasks that are important, but they might not be urgent. We tend to forget about these things because they're not urgent, but really we need to make sure we don't lose sight of them because after all, they are important. So these are the tasks that we need to decide when we're going to take care of them. Schedule a time to handle them so we don't forget about them. So there you go. One way to think about your time and prioritization in project management is to approach your tasks and think about what you need to decide, what you need to delete, what you need to delegate, what you need to do now, and then what you need to decide on for later. By the way, I think this matrix can be helpful not just for handling your own tasks, but also for thinking about when you're scheduling meetings, making sure that the topic is important, that you have the right people in the room, and that the timing of the meeting makes sense so that you can have a really productive meeting.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jessie, for that insight on really how to know if a thing is important and urgent and what to do about it. Just to build on that a little bit, once I've sort of decided the urgency of a thing, I always feel like, okay, now I got to get down to to-do list. Now it's time to get stuff done. But, even though I'm a bit of a to-do list queen, my lists tend to get a little out of hand, and they start to look like this, which is ridiculous. Like, who can get done with all these things in a day? And so I really want to recommend that you guys start to think about the things that you have to do in terms of 3 categories so you could start really addressing what's really important to get done now. So the 3 categories that I sort of use in my work is it critical now? Is it an opportunity now? Or is it something that should be handled over the horizon? Now, you can choose to call these categories whatever you would like. Feel free. I used to call them like get it done girl and then get it done soonish. But I mean, honestly, that's hard to share. So I really recommend thinking about these 3 categories. And critical now are the tasks that are urgent and important, like Jessie talked about. And these are the ones that, in order for you to go home, you have to get them finished. So it has to pass the going home test. And because of that, I really recommend having no more than 3 to 5 items on this task, because you do trap at your office all day otherwise. And also so you can instill a sense of like, okay, I got this done, it's time to leave. So that's critical now. Those are those most important things that you have to do. Now, the opportunity now tasks, these are the ones that are important, but just not urgent. So these are things that need to be done soon, just not today. And this list can actually be a bit longer because, again, it doesn't have to get finished right away today. And lastly, we have the over the horizon. Now, these tasks are not urgent, and they may or may not be important. It really depends on how you're thinking about them. But what's critical about it, these tasks, is that there's no set deadline for them, and these are just things you don't want to forget about. So they might be ongoing tasks that you have to do, but you just have to put them somewhere. So these are the 3 buckets that I think of in terms of tasks. Critical now, opportunity now, and over the horizon.
Awesome. Thanks, Whitney. I find that really helpful because, like Whitney said, when you just have one big list, it can be overwhelming, difficult to manage, and impossible to prioritize. So I think it's a really helpful way to keeping your to-do list manageable and make it work for you. So now we'd like to take you on a quick tour of this great online tool that we love to use to manage our to-do lists on the go. The tool is called Trello. And if you're not familiar with it, it's a website and a mobile app, and it's got a lot of great features that you can use to help you with managing projects, managing your tasks, and with collaboration as well. We promise this is not a paid advertisement. We just happen to really like using this tool, so we wanted you all to know about it as well. Now let me start by saying that Trello can do a lot of sophisticated things, and we're not going to try to show you everything. If you want to try this tool, there are a lot of great existing resources that already exist to teach you how to use it well. So check those out. But we thought it would be helpful to show you one of the ways that Whitney and I use Trello. Whitney just shared this idea of having different kinds of task lists, and we both use Trello to create, manage, and share those lists with each other. This is a sample board that Whitney and I created to demonstrate how we actually use Trello. And so you can create different boards, you can share them with people, and then on each board you can create different lists. So on this board we have a critical now list, we have an opportunity now list, we have an over the horizon list, and we have a complete list because I really like to be able to see the progress that I'm making by moving my tasks over there once I'm done with them. So on a list you can create a card. So you can see each one of these items is a different task, and so that's how we like to organize. We tend to put one task per card, but you can organize it in a lot of different ways. So you can all you have to do is click to add a task. So I'm going to schedule a check-in with Whitney. So I've just added that task, and it's as simple as that. And then I've added it to my opportunity now list. But let's say something comes up and I need to make sure that I talk to Whitney before the end of the day. All I have to do is drag this over and drop it over here to, oh, I already have 2 check-ins with Whitney now. So I better delete this one. So I'm going to archive that guy. And you can choose to archive something so you can actually keep a record of it, or you can just delete it permanently. So I've got a check-in with Whitney scheduled here, and now I'm going to have that on my to-do list for today. Now another thing that you can do that's really helpful with Trello is you can use color coding and labels to help organize your different tasks. So you can use, for example, let's do this one. Okay. So this is a task that we've set up to check with Kat about her ability to help out with a virtual learning session. So I'm going to label it so that I can help keep track of which project this is actually associated with. It happens that we've created some labels, so I'm going to label it with the virtual learning series label. You could do this by type of task or by who's supposed to be responsible for it. There's any number of ways that you can use your labels. So that's one function. And another great function is that you can add a due date. So you can go ahead and say, okay, I need to do this by the 17th of April. And that's going to give me a due date. So now when I look at my task on my board, I can see the color code and I can see the due date. Another cool thing that you can do is you can attach documents. So let's say you need to review a report, or you have some kind of file you need to combine, something that involves other files or even particular emails that you need to respond to. You could actually just add an attachment to that card right here. And you can create checklists too. So this checklist is not very creative. All I did was start typing in item 1, item 2, item 3, but it's as simple as just saying, adding another item and hitting enter. And then now when I go in here, if I have a bunch of individual steps that I need to take related to this task, I can start to check them off. And it tells me also what % complete is done. Okay, so this is some of the basic functions of Trello that we like to use quite a bit. Like I said, there's a lot of other things that you can do with Trello. So we do encourage you, if you are interested, to check this out. There's a blog and an online tour, and it's also great because you can sync it with your smartphone. There's an app that you can use, and you can also use your email to send emails to your different boards to add to task items and things like that. So it really works well with lots of different other platforms and is really handy for time management, project management, and collaboration.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jessie, for that discussion about Trello. It is something that we actually use quite a lot here on our team, so highly recommend you check it out. Again, it's not a paid advertisement. So let's move on to our next topic of managing your inbox. Now, this section of our session is for those who struggle like I do with email overwhelm. You know what I mean? Like you open it up every morning, it's just too many messages to actually handle. So I think throughout the day, sometimes it's really tempting to constantly be checking your inbox. So here is a little cheat sheet / process that might help you get that inbox under control so that email won't actually master you. So the first question I like to ask when I look at my list or my actual emails, is it urgent? So is this email something I have to respond to right now? Yes or no? And if yes, actually I have to think, is this going to be a quick response? And if so, I go ahead and respond and just file it away. Quick is like, this is not going to take that much time. I can just quickly write a response. Yes, I'll meet you at this time. If it's not quick, I have to flag that and reply to that particular message by the end of the day. Because again, I can't be stuck to that inbox all day. Now, if it's not an urgent email at all, I still want to know, is it something I can quickly respond to and just get off my plate? And if so, I still go ahead and reply right away and just file it away. And if it's going to take a little bit longer, then I have to consider something else. Like if it's not urgent, I'm just going to leave it for later. I might not even flag it. Somebody, I'll get to them maybe the next day. But it's really to start to think of your emails in terms of, is it urgent and can I respond quickly? That's one way to think about it. And now some other key takeaways that you might really want to consider implementing for managing your email is try setting times to read your emails. Like seriously, I know we're tied to our smartphones and everything. It's like it pops up all the time, but consider really setting certain times throughout the day that you'll be checking your email, and make sure to let your team members know those time frames so that they're not waiting for a response and they're wondering, like, did you die? That's not the case, but you just have set times for actually answering it. Here's another dramatic thing you might want to do is turn off your email notifications. I know that's a hard stretch for some people, but if you don't want to completely shut down your inbox, consider turning off the notification that pops up on your screen while you're trying to really get work done. I find that to be a great way to procrastinate. I end up not getting my other tasks finished. So consider turning off that pop-up box. And lastly, consider just following these 3 steps when you look at your inboxes. Again, if it's something you can quickly respond to, just go ahead and respond to the email, get it out of the way. If it's going to take a little bit more time, add that to your to-do list for the day. And remember, don't exceed 3 to 5 things on that critical now. And lastly, if it's really not requiring a response right away, file it or delete it. Those are my tips.
Awesome. Thanks, Whitney. I think it's really helpful because a lot of us tend to kind of surround our work gets really centered on our email, but there are things that we need to do besides just read and respond to email. And so I find myself, if I don't use that kind of approach to managing my inbox, then sometimes all I'm doing is responding to email and not actually getting anything done on my to-do list. So I think it's really great to keep those tips in mind. Let's do a quick recap of what we covered today. So we talked about the difference between important and urgent. Remember, don't let the urgent take over your life because then you might actually forget about what's important. We also talked about a great way to prioritize your to-do list using that critical now, opportunity now, and over the horizon structure. We did a quick intro of some of the features of Trello, which you can use to manage your tasks, manage your projects, and collaborate. And then finally, Whitney just shared some ways to manage your inbox so that email doesn't take control of your life, such as setting times to read email, turning off the notifications on your email, and having a simple system for whether you respond right away, add it to your task list, or file or delete it.
Awesome. Thanks, Jessie, for that quick recap. And also a special thanks to our sponsors, American Express and Laureate International Universities, for their support of the Youth Action Net Virtual Learning Series. And before you go, remember to keep in touch with us on the latest news and things that are happening with Youth Action Net. If you haven't already subscribed to our newsletter, go ahead and click on that link or type it in and follow us there. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So thanks so much for joining. And Jessie, thanks so much for your insights, girl.
Thank you. Thanks, Whitney. Same to you. And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.